If I've learned anything from my career as an elite tap dancer, it's the intricacies of rhythm, and those same intricacies can be applied to playing guitar. So today we're talking all about rhythm. We're going to be doing it in the people's key, the key of G, also the favorite key of the legendary Billy Bojangles Robinson, the greatest of all time, God rest his soul. And first we're going to do it, it's going to sound like this. Okay, so sounds easy, sounds like the major scale, but everything starts there and then it gets pretty wild, just like the greatest tap dancers. You don't start out with your A game, you work into it. There's a natural progression, okay? So, again, the key of G, the notes are G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. You may have played like a major scale shape like this before, where it starts on the 3rd fret of the E string, 3, 5, 2, 3, 5, 2, 4, 5. But we're gonna do this just across 2 strings, the low E and the A string, okay? So, the G, A, B is going to be the 3rd fret, the 5th fret, and the 7th fret, okay? 3, 5, 7. These notes are a step apart, just like a tap dancer would take a step, okay? But here's the thing. If you grew up in the tap world like I did, there are several other terms. You got your spanks and your stamps and your stomps. We gotta make sure you understand that first. So we're gonna make a power chord on this G, right? It's gonna be the 3rd fret on the E string and the 5th fret on the A string. Now I'm gonna be palm muting this entire lesson. The reason I'm gonna do that is because when you palm mute something, it has a very quick attack and release. So you just hear like a beat essentially. And when you can just hear a beat, you can really kind of work on your rhythm a little bit more. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the side of my hand and just stamping it to the bridge right here, okay? So we got this power chord on 3E and 5A. This is a G power chord. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna try to get a rhythm on here, and we're gonna start alternating what we're doing here. So if we have a bar, a count of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're gonna go like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so the numbers are going to be, you're going to aim for 2 strings, both strings together, whether you're using your thumb or your pick. You'll also notice that my ring finger is laid across the D string, so I can't really hear the rest of the guitar. It's being muted. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so if we think of this in the tap world as alternating things, we can think of these as stamps and stomps. Okay? So if you don't understand what the difference is, a stamp is when you step onto the entire foot with weight transfer. So we're going to stamp the E and the A string, and then we're going to stomp the E string. A stomp is when you just stamp, but you don't transfer your weight, right? A stomp, your weight's on your back foot. Any tap dancer, any elite tap dancer knows that. A stamp is when you transfer your weight into it. So stamp, then stomp. Okay, every beat is going to be a stamp and a stomp. So, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? So, there we go. That's going to be the basis of what we're doing. By the way, this video is sponsored by Donner Guitars. They sent me this amazing electric guitar and also the reverb pedal that I'm playing through. If you didn't watch the unboxing of me and Davidas unboxing this, it's a great watch. I'm going to link you because it's just wild man in his native Florida habitat. Even though he isn't native Floridian, he seems very native. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? Gets boring when we're just doing it on this 1st fret. Remember that G major scale, the next step is going to be A, the 5th fret. So we're going to do a bar of G and then a bar of A, okay? In the tap world, it's called a shim sham. A shim sham is when a stomp and a spank and a step with alternating feet, so that makes sense. So let's hit that shim sham from G to A. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and G and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I think it's really important that you palm mute it. If you have sustain, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 don't hear the beats as fiercely, right? You can't get that tap dancing into your soul. Maxie Ford wouldn't be able to dance around to a sustained power chord, right? Maybe Billy Bojangles could. Maxie probably couldn't. So really get that palmy there. It's really great for like your picking too, to go around that way. And then let's actually do this with every note in the scale. So our root note is going to be 3, 5, 7 on the E string, then 3, 5, 7 on the A string, G, A, B, C, D, E. You can do it with one finger. It's okay. Usually you would practice this scale with like a reach or like this, however you want to do it. But we're just going to be moving a shape around, so you have permission to do that, because we're shim-shamming all over the place, right? We're stamping, we're stopping, we're shim-shamming, we're having a good time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and make sure you get that alternating sound of the E and the A, and then just the E. Now I'm on the 3rd fret of the A string, the 5th fret of the A string, and the 7th fret of the A string. So again, if you look at when I'm doing the power chords on the A string, again, a power chord is just a name for a 2-note chord. We have the root note of the chord, and it's 5th. If you don't know what that means, maybe you should check out my Patreon, because I explain the music theory in excellent detail. But yeah, and when I'm doing the A power chord, you'll notice that my pointer finger is actually rubbing up against that low E string. I'm kind of just, it's almost like I'm slapping it. A slap is a flap without a weight transfer in the tap world. So I'm just kind of slapping it. I'm not putting the weight transfer on there, but I'm touching it. I'm getting a little slap in there. I'm stomping, I'm spanking, I'm slapping. All of this information is accurate because I truly am a master of the tap world. And then I'm just holding it so I'm not hearing an open E string while I'm hitting that A power chord. And that allows me to get that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and it's buying my picking hand actually a little bit of leeway, because if I accidentally hit that E string, I'm just going to hear the percussive nature of it instead of actually hearing it take off. So again, now let's just practice just the 3 to the 5 to the 7 on the A string. It's going to sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 7 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we could go backwards to 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you'll notice when you start changing directions, alternating like a great tap would, great tap dancer would. Tap dancers call each other taps, in case you didn't know that. Like, oh, that's a good tap over there. That's a legendary tapper. It's true. You can switch direction wherever you want, and eventually by the end of this lesson we'll be kind of moving this around to make something a little more musical that is less in order, but it's good to know where these notes are in relation to each other in a scale in order, and then you'll be able to kind of mix it up at the end, right? So far we have 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7. To continue the pattern, to continue the scale, we're going to go to the 9th fret on the A string, and then the 10th fret on the A string. F sharp and G. Okay? Now, if you know about music theory or anything like that, you might think that like, oh, the 9th fret is an F sharp, and then if we have its 5th right here, we actually get this note right here, which is actually a C sharp. It's not in this key, okay? So technically, if we're just going to keep the notes in the key, this would be a diminished thing here, but nobody wants to listen to that. You know what I mean? That's like, let's listen to a tap dancer with 3 feet or something, if such a freak's ever existed. So we're actually going to make this a true power chord. But on the way back, I want to do something different. This is something you can use in like compositions and stuff if you're ever writing anything. This is a G. Remember, we're in the key of G. The 3rd fret on the E string is the same note as the 10th fret on the A string, okay? So, one really cool thing that sounds good is if you're going backwards from maybe like a G to an F sharp to an E, okay? What you could do is actually you could just drop the root of the G right here. And I think that's kind of a more pleasant sound instead of maybe introducing that C sharp into the key that technically shouldn't be there, or even getting the... Again, none of them sound bad, but I just like the sound of a G. Drop that note. The reason that it sounds so good is because we have an F sharp with a D, and D and F sharp are the notes in a D major chord, which is a very important chord in the key of G, but they're inverted, okay? An inversion is just what happens when a tap dancer puts tap shoes on his hands, his or her hands, and then just does the whole show in a headstand format. Inversions are much easier on guitar than they are in the tap world. Trust me on that one. All right, so we're gonna go through the entire exercise. We're gonna chug along through it, which is another tap / guitar thing. All right, I think I'm gonna wrap up the tap metaphors. we've gone too far. We're gonna go through the whole thing from G to G. All right, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 D and 2 and 3 and 4 and E and 2, 3 and 4 and F sharp power chord and G. And then on the way back, let's go G and 2 and 3 and drop the root and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and D and 2 and 3 and 4 and C, 2, 3, 4, B, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, G and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Okay, so doing that, calling out the names of the notes is actually really, really helpful. Again, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. But I think the really fun part of this exercise is maybe finding your own intervals that you want to kind of combine, right? So maybe let's not do it in order. Let's do something where we can number these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then just pick up random numbers, right? A 1, 5, 6, 4 is a chord progression that is super, super common. You might even be able to hear different songs that you know, because so many songs are a 1, 5, 6, 4. So 1, 5, 6, 4 in G would be G, D, E, C. With that same 4 counts per bar idea of you, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 to the 5 chord, to the 6 chord, to the 4 chord. And honestly, now that I'm doing this, I didn't even think about this before we started it. If we do a 1, 5, 6, 4 in this exact kind of pattern, rhythmic pattern, but we started on a D chord, you would have the U2 song With or Without You. Again, it's just like a 1 and 4 and 5 and 4 and 6 chord, then back to the 4 chord. I think that song is in the key of D, if I'm remembering correctly. But again, that's why it's really, really good to know the numbers, because you learn a whole song by thinking of a combination of numbers, 1, 5, 6, 4. All right. So let's do something more. Let's do a descending one. I like the sound of descending lines, right? So we'll start here, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and back to the 4 chord to the 5 chord. So we can think about this as a 1 to 7 if you want, even though really, like I said, this inversion is really giving us a 5 chord. We can think of a 1, 7, 4, 5, and it really has the same vibe as a 1, 5, 4, 5. I'll do both of them back to back, right? So here's a 1, and then maybe from a lower register, a 1, 5, 4, 5, 1, 5, 4, 5. And again, it really helps to do with the metronome. You can maybe bring up like a drum backing track or something. Just search the internet and they're all over the place. But I really do think that practicing on that palm muting is something that's really going to help your rhythm because it forces you to hear yourself. A lot of times when you're just kind of like playing sustained and stuff like that, you can kind of miss the attack and release of certain notes. And I think really being able to isolate those types of things is a super important thing for increasing your rhythm, because you're not going to be able to have your rhythm get better if you're not hearing when it goes off. Another great idea to do with this is maybe start looping some of these chord progressions with a looper pedal, because then like you'll be able to hear like right after the fact, if you're playing, how on you were with those chord changes. And it all comes down to musical counting. So it's a combination of musical counting through the major scale, because again, that's the most important thing you can learn music theory wise. That's really like the bare necessities of what you need to learn. I know some people are like, oh, I don't need to learn music theory, blah, 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 blah. Did Maxie Ford and Bojangles Robinson and Fred Astaire know their music theory? Probably. I don't know. I've never tap danced before. I'm not sure. But yeah, it really helps to number chords. So you're definitely going to want to do that, right? And then the great thing about all this is you get the spacing in between these, the intervals as they were, and then you do them in any key, right? So if you're in the key of A, everything just moves 1 and 2 and... going backwards inversion, so on and so forth, right? So again, learning the intervals between chord scale degrees, which is exactly what we're talking about. A lot of you, if you say that sentence, like, what did you do today? Oh, I learned a bunch of tap dancing terms from a guy who has no idea what he's talking about, and I also learned a bunch of chord scale degree intervals. Well, one of those sounds pretty impressive, am I right? So keep doing that. Definitely thank you to Donner for sponsoring this guitar lesson and sending this guitar over. It's funny, it's like, when we unboxed this, it looked green to us, but on camera, this is clearly blue. This is one of those, like, what color was the dress things, because I'm looking at it, and it looks like a pale green, and then I see this in the monitor of that camera, and this is, like, clearly blue. I'm about to lose my mind, but it's definitely a pretty good guitar for a super reasonable price. I'm digging, like, the vintage-style tuners. And also, the reverb pedal is fantastic here. I don't really have it on the mix full, but here's without it. You can hear a little bit of a tail. I think just having a tasteful amount really adds a lot to your playing. So again, there's affiliate links in there if you're interested. Thank you for checking it out. And thank you once again to Billy Bojangles Robinson for inspiring generations with his amazing tap techniques, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.